About 12 months ago, we at National Capital Presbytery asked all of our committees, our teams, and our commissions to examine the work that they did and to make sure that it aligned with the vision that we all share as being part of National Capital Presbytery, which is being missional, pastoral, and prophetic. So these teams had hard conversations and hard decisions of what to let go of to make room for what to embrace. The fall began and we felt very clear about what our identity and how we were all going to live into it as a presbytery. We were going to be missional. We moved things around to create a new fund that was going to help and resource new things, brand new things that were going to reach new people throughout our presbytery. New churches, new worshiping communities, but also new programs in existing communities, all for the sake of reaching more people for the sake of the gospel. Our work in the fall was pastoral. We knew plenty of churches were facing transition, from pastors who had faithfully served for a long time were facing retirement, and instead of offering a blanket prescription on how to go through transition, our Committee on Ministry was making tailor-made transition opportunities for our churches that were going to be unique for their particular congregations and ministries. Our work in the fall was prophetic. We put together our Dismantling Racism team, a priority this presbytery had set a few years ago, and now had the opportunity to fully live into that. The fall was set. We felt good about the work our presbytery was going to be doing in 2020, and then the global pandemic is at our doorsteps. And so we as a presbytery said, well, we believe God has called us to be missional, pastoral, and prophetic no matter what the circumstances in our world are. So how then can we respond to a global pandemic still being missional, pastoral, and prophetic? So some of our work had to shift, but our emphasis stayed the same. We were missional. We have churches that partnered with each other and found resources from the denomination and inside the presbytery to do things like having feeding programs in their community, offer places for ongoing employment for people who had lost their jobs. We had churches reaching out to our presbytery office to use tools like Mission Insight and the church assessment tool so that they could have a deep and exhaustive look into their community to find out how their response to their community would need to change during a global pandemic. Connections that they hadn't made before, but use this opportunity to be able to reach and engage the people in their neighborhood. Our New Things team, which is where our new ministries come out of, thought that the pandemic might be a long speed bump for them, but it actually offered opportunity to help some of our new ministries revision, retool. Some of them take a little bit of a break, and some of them speed up to how they might be engaging people who desperately need a community of faith right now. Our work also remained pastoral. At the very beginning of this, our staff reached out to all 104 of our congregations to check in on two things. The first was that did they have some way of engaging their congregation remotely or digitally while they could not gather in person? And if they didn't, how could we walk them through the tools that they could use that would best suit their unique congregation? The second was to ensure that some type of congregational giving was still in place, and how to set up things like PayPal or use a Presbyterian foundation so that giving could remain in place during a time when they were socially distant. We also had regular clergy check-in calls. They started off as twice a week as an opportunity for clergy throughout the presbytery to come together to share best ideas and practices, to share their joys, their concerns, their struggles, their successes, to lean on each other, to shop new ideas of what's worked, what hasn't, so that they come back to their congregations well-equipped and recharged to continue their ministry. Our stated clerk has turned into a polity gymnast and has worked tailor-made to congregations of requests that come in from clerks of sessions on how to do congregational meetings, how to serve communion, how to elect officers, how to even call new pastors, and has worked with each congregation individually so that they can respond to the needs of their congregation appropriately. Our Stewardship Committee launched a webinar early during the pandemic, and we had a survey they went out that 69 of our churches responded to. And what we found out, that the overwhelming majority of our churches weren't just doing fine, but were actually doing better than they had thought. Giving was up. worship Sunday morning attendance was way up. They were reaching people that probably never have, nor probably never will, step foot inside their doors, but they found a way to connect with them so that they could find a church home, a place to call home, even though it was through a screen like you are right now. Our work during the pandemic also stayed prophetic. Our Dismounting Racism team is currently working on a calendar for all of our presbytery to have opportunities to engage in this work together. We also have many churches in our presbytery who have started the work of addressing racial injustice as a congregation. We have churches who have been doing this for generations, and we have churches who are just starting this now. Our staff has met with these congregations no matter where they are on their journey and offer them resources and support on how they might do this work inside their congregations. But most importantly, in being prophetic as a presbytery, we as National Capital Presbytery made sure that it was clear that none of our churches were closed. All of our churches were open for ministry in very new ways and engaging in new people, of fully living into what it means to be a prophetic voice of faith for the world that we now find ourselves in. When this pandemic first hit, our level of anxiety and fear was not that high because we knew how strong this body already was. What COVID-19 offered us was an opportunity to showcase that strength, to see how collaborative we really can be as a body, to do things together that no one church can ever do by themselves. So, National Capital Presbytery, may you continue to live into the shared calling that we all have. May you continue to live into that calling that is now 2,000 years ago of those first followers of Jesus to make more disciples. Or as I like to say it, to continue to grow the church. So thank you, friends, for being faithful. Thank you for being committed to the work of National Capital Presbytery as we continue to reach more people in the greater Washington, D.C. area for the sake of the gospel.